Every one point, every location, there's something happening. And the more we make use of this information, this data, whether it's a cyclone, whether it's political happenings, maybe in North Rift region, and Dr. Kendoyo is working on that, we're able to consume this information in our platforms, expose them to the key decision makers at the highest level, and drive the process. So with technology, we're able to support businesses move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Zachary Misiani, working at the Kenya Red Cross Society, just a neighbor over the other side of the road. Yeah, I would like to appreciate that in the humanitarian space, the anticipatory action in Kenya Muso is just at the infant stage, and we are advocating for that anticipatory action as compared to the traditionary whereby we used to respond when a disaster strikes. Under the anticipatory action now, we are doing some interventions in advance based on the predictions of the weather, and we are working very closely with the Kenya Met Department and also even the IGAD regions, because we realize that there are some phenomena which usually comes even from the neighboring countries and also affect the vulnerable communities. For example, I would like to mention that where we are coming from, for example, recently we were responding to flood disaster whereby most part of the country was affected because of that enhanced rainfall, which we got that information from the Kenya Met Department, and we went ahead and prepositioned our staffs standby so that during the response, more so on the high risk areas which were predicted from the heavy rainfall, so we were able to do some interventions in before a disaster strikes, and also using the remote sensing. These are remember humanitarians, the communities are at most of the vulnerable communities are at the rural places, whereby reaching to those communities is a challenge. So we are using the remote sensing technology to do what we can say like mapping, whereby you can be able to know which areas is going to be affected, which routes is going to be affected. Through that, we can be able to do what we call the facilitation of the logistics movement in the humanitarian space. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alexander, do you have a response to that question?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to use this one. Thank you. The UN Environment Program has two different levels of intervention in terms of anticipatory action. One is the early warning on environment, so the early warning on environment that includes the three dimensions for the triple planetary crisis, basically. The climate action, the biodiversity loss, and pollution and waste management. The interesting thing, and we got that from one of the presentations, the climate security one, is that to approach anticipatory action in a nexus approach. So it's almost impossible to disentangle the crisis and disaster risk management on climate, such as tropical cyclones, floods, that Kenya is a good example, droughts. So the intersection between all these different climate action areas, together with the other areas such as deforestation, such as the increase on the level of temperatures, the air pollution, waste management. So basically, UNEP is integrating in an integrated approach the early warning capacity of countries for anticipatory action in this regard, with these three dimensions of the triple planetary crisis. The second level is different, is at the UN level, the UN system level, and there's an early warning for all program, which intends to install equipments, infrastructure, services at country level. And the reality is quite staggering. So basically, at this point in time, 50% of the countries in the world do not have any alarm systems or early warning systems in place. Of course, unfortunately, we're talking about mostly the developing world and the global south, which unfortunately are the ones more impacted by climate change, by all the other crises. So we do have a human challenge, a humanity challenge, to make sure that up to 2030, we have the capacity to accelerate the implementation of these early warning systems in countries. Again, why is it so crucial? Because what I've seen in the morning was fantastic, spectacular, and I should congratulate the Kenyan Space Agency for the extraordinary progress done in these decades. And the technology is available. I've just learned in the morning 2 revolutions, one in terms of small satellite scale that can bring to society the benefits of technology of space in a much accelerated way. The second one was this AI promise and the AI opportunity for putting these. The problem is not on the technology, is on the divide that the world has in terms of infrastructure and the divide the world has in terms of capacity. So I think the programs on capacity development that Kenyan Space Agency also demonstrated, as well as the programs on infrastructure, are crucial, because we do have a tremendous divide between the north and the south, means the world. And we have to tackle that divide and accelerate tackling that divide, giving priority to the global south. So at these 2 levels, the early warning program on the environment, and on the other hand, the early warnings for all, in terms of the whole UN system, we do have these 2 fundamental priorities in terms of reducing the gap of infrastructure and reducing the gap of capacity building. And I'll stop here. I should have a word of gratitude for the invitation of the Kenyan Space Agency for UNEP to be here. And it's extraordinary, the potentiality of the Kenyan Space Agency and space technology for society. So a big congrats for the event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexander. Let's hear from Zachary. Sorry, from Dr. Gekungu.
Once again, I want to... Okay?
It's okay.
You can...
Use this one.
Yeah, maybe this is the better one, because this one you turn on, it shows green, but it doesn't quite communicate. This one is red. So I agree with what my colleagues have said, and that whole issue of early warning for all is a program that is real, and unfortunately, Kenya is not one of the targeted countries for the early warning for all. Because the first list of 30 is least developed nations. But we stand to gain as Kenya because we have a training institute that will require students from the least developed countries to come over for training. And for that reason, there is room for that enhancement through the funding that comes with the early warning for all. Number 2 is that the Kenya Meteorological Department hosts the regional instruments calibration center, which would also be a pathway for that kind of support through that. So all is not lost, and we are there to watch and see it happen because of our membership with the World Meteorological Organization. Having said all that, what are we doing to enhance whatever we do? We need to have trained people, capacity building, as I said in the presentation I made. Capacity building for purposes of ensuring that you are up to the scale in terms of forecasting. And we also need to be present so as to track the environment to see what is happening, and ensuring that we have the right equipment for the tracking of the same. I sit with a group of people. On a daily basis, I have to visit the forecasting office. It's only today that I didn't do it because I was coming here. But I have to ensure that I'm abreast with what is happening because of the nature of the office that I run. But this is something that I encourage all meteorologists in that compound to go and see what is happening. And that helps you to make a good forecast when you are able to observe. And that is where the message of early warning for all comes in. If you are enabled to see those systems well in advance, because the question you ask yourself is, how early can the warning be given? Because the longer it is to the event, the dimension of accuracy also comes in. Can I see it long in advance, several days before it happens, and still be as accurate as if I was talking about an event that is likely to happen tomorrow, and I'm talking about it today? I hope that is good English. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Benson?
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'd like to stand by all protocols. I mean, for us within CIAT, what we are doing and within the CGIR consortium is that through the climate resilience initiative or project that we have been doing, the aim is to build resilience against extreme events, and one of the products has been the climate security observatory. So here, I mean, the evidence and the research that we've produced within the climate security, we've used it for three things. We've used it to influence policies and strategies, to be forward-looking, and then we've also used it to improve programming. And we've, for programming, we've worked with different institutions, for example, the UNHCR, to try and see how they can build anticipatory actions, looking forward to where they settle refugees and how the refugees then, are able to live with the host communities, and looking at the events that are likely to impact these places into the future. Also, on programming, one of the other things that we've done is also to try and look at the most vulnerable regions that we've mapped as hotspots, and look at how we can build resilience of these communities in a peace-responsive manner, because we find that in these vulnerable areas, there is the concurrences of climate extremes and conflict. So we are looking at how then we help, for example, by working with counties and through, for example, the example that I had given with the Green Climate Finance funding, to target areas that then can help build peace responsive project. By peace responsive, I mean the communities are involved. They are able to identify projects that they want to work on that will help them, and at the same time, the projects are not maladaptive, looking into the future. The last one, also the anticipatory action. One of the things is that also one of the last aspect is that we are doing now, we are developing a capacity building course, and we have co-developed this with the Ministry of Agriculture and the Climate Smart Agriculture Multi-Stakeholder Platform, and we've piloted it in Turkana and Laikipia, and we hope to scale it up even to the other East African countries. And the aim is to try and use what we have to improve social cohesion in communities, and that is agriculture. And because we depend on agriculture, we depend on rain-fed agriculture, how then do we shift to smart practices that then enhance production in a climate crisis by involving entire communities, also therefore bringing benefits of social cohesion, acceptance of projects, improving livelihoods, and also at the end improving peace, because without peace you can't do any programming in these regions. Thank you.
Thank you for that response, Dr. Kenduyo. I want to boomerang the questions right back to the panelists, and I'll start with Dr. Kenduyo on how Earth observation can improve data collection and analysis capabilities.
Thank you again. On this, one of the things that as you have seen from the presentation, we use a lot of Earth observation data. And one of the things that is really strong in the Paris Agreement is the championing of locally led climate actions. And one of the things that we have tried to shift now is that we are bringing in participatory mapping into the aspects. So we have done all these mappings, and one of the things that we do is go to communities. Like just recently, we were able to bring together all the arid and semi-arid counties. We met in Isiolo, and we looked at what we had mapped, and then triangulated the information that we had with what people know. Because, the Paris Agreement is very clear that people should be able, we should be able to integrate local knowledge. We should also be able to give locally led climate action. So one of the things that we did is that we shared what we had. We sought to know from the experts from these regions that were cut across the departments of agriculture, environment, and also the national DENGAOs, the national government administration officers, to see then what is their perception of what, first of all, we have mapped from the remote sensing part. What is missing? And then, given that these areas they know, and they are, what are the existing measures that are there in these areas to build resilience of communities, and what is lacking. And based on this information, we are able then to go back to, by using in situ data, remote sensing information, to then work with different agencies who want to then do programming in these regions to sort of then improve their approach, and also to fill the gaps in what is missing. And one of the opportunities that we have now is also to try and mainstream climate peace and security in the upcoming climate smart agriculture strategy. Also to work with the counties, because most counties have not integrated climate peace and security into climate, whatever you call county climate change adaptation plans, which is then very, very important. And this is some of the information that we triangulate by basically using Earth observation, both in situ and remote sensing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Benson. Dr. Gekungu, you talked about the issues related to accuracy being part of the problems that KMD faces. I would want to know, in the context of Kenya, what do you think can be done to enhance the weather prediction capabilities?
This.
Thank you. What can be done?
To enhance the weather prediction capabilities for Kenya.
Thank you. It's a good question. There's a lot that can be done. I think in my presentation I mentioned like twice about improvement of observed data coverage. Because what is observed on the ground, much as it compares with what is observed from up there, there is a lot of estimation from the satellites, but what is observed on the ground is very, very important. My dream is to have a very, very close network of stations, whether they are the traditional ones where you observe one instrument after the other, or automatic weather stations, but a closer network, that is one. And of course that goes with capacity building in terms of the personnel who will work on the data, with the data that is observed. There is this concept of modeling. We have our own models that we use for forecasting, and we compare with what we obtain from other users and developers. Improvement on the models is also an aspect that would help us, but it all boils down to what data do you put into the models as you analyze. That is quite critical. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that. We have 5 more minutes, so I will ask UNEP one question. In the context of the UN, what gaps is the UN addressing to accelerate early warnings for these countries? Because, like you mentioned, the early warning for all is only supporting just a few countries, and I believe this is not a role that the UN only can do. Also, there's the expectation of what governments need to do to be prepared in that context. What, you know?
The big priority, as I was telling before, is on infrastructure and on capacity building and capabilities. But as is mentioned, there was a group of 30 early warning countries worldwide. Of course, we have to start with the small island developing states in the Pacific, many other vulnerable communities. Then this group has been expanded to 60 countries, is now 60 countries. It's very likely that this does not mean the other countries are not impacted. As Dr. Gurundu explained, there's an intersection between capacity building, infrastructure development, etc., among the whole world on the early warning program. But I think it's crucial to understand one thing. The more we do partnerships to the nexus, because the problem of peace, security, and conflict, which impacts most countries, unfortunately now around the world, is not desegmented from the problem of environmental protection and environmental action, okay? Is not distinguished from humanitarian action. So the more we can combine the nexus of the different pillars, from peace, security, conflict, to environment, socioeconomic, to humanitarian action, the more we can accelerate. Because all over the world, the question is how to accelerate the impact on the ground. The other aspect is, and is related with space technology, what matters is the full cycle, from Earth observation, remote sensing, to ground truth in situ on the ground. So I think a way to accelerate is to implement initiatives that go full cycle and that go on the ground full cycle. Because otherwise we cannot reap the benefits when we're analyzing water quality, we're analyzing air pollution. We need the full cycle that goes from Earth observation data to ground truth and in situ. So one way to accelerate is to conceive these initiatives in a full cycle approach. And that again is a way we are trying in early warning to bring together the full value chain to impact directly on the ground, because it's about people on the ground, so that it matters. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I agree that we need a full cycle to be able to be effective in getting the benefits of early warning. So to Red Cross, I have just to ask, because we have early warning information, but there's always the other response side. So what do you think can be improved to make that effective? Because just because there's an announcement of something happening does not mean that the society is going to receive it in the same way. What do you think can be done to improve that, the response aspect?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. In the humanitarian, of course, we have the forecast, which we usually get from the Met and also from the ICPAC. But nowadays, we are talking about the impact-based forecast. This is whereby we humanitarians want to see or want to know what the weather is going to do for our vulnerable communities. For example, if we are talking about the above average rainfall, for example, in the arid and semi-arid counties in Tana River, in Garissa. So that amount of the rainfall is equivalent to what magnitude of the disaster. For example, we saw in the last season about the lysing of the lakes, that is from the Lake Victoria. Of course, it is lysing because of the rainfall from the environment, and also we saw the overflowing of the dams, that is from the Kengen, because of the enhanced rainfall. So for us, as long as we know that enhanced rainfall, then we can translate that information, and then we know the communities who are along the riverine basins are at the risk because of that amount of the rainfall. And also, I forgot to mention that we are supporting the development of the anticipatory action at the national level, and also we are likely to invite most of you during the launching. This is a co-development approach with support from different organizations. So now we are going forward what the weather will do for our vulnerable communities, but not how the weather will be. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. I think my last question will go to Iga. As a private sector company, and particularly the medium to the small scale businesses, how can we be better engaged? Because we usually get it when it comes to the big private sector, the Blue Origins, and those ones, but we forget how we can be able to work more with the small scale to medium scale businesses. How do you think we can work better with the international organizations, with governments?
Well, thank you for that question, because I think it's also been mentioned by one of the presenters today. We have to work with the right partners at the end of the day. And some of these they really push us, like Microsoft. They tell us, oh, here is a grant, or here are licenses just to start off, develop on our platform, leverage our technologies, make them available to entities like Kenya Red Cross. We work with them. There's another panelist who's supposed to come here, World Bank, also working with them. So how they can work with us as SMEs is to, one, sponsor or give us grants. In terms of licensing, in terms of these technologies, they're also expensive. But you'll find us using EO data, supporting some of our other partners in the room to do research. That is applied research. And yeah, if we're able to connect that gap with established entities, and we also come in with the innovation, because that's what's key for our business, is to innovate in this space, not just consume and resell. I think we can drive the narrative, enhance the entire value chain from EO all the way down to communicating with communities on the ground about potential risks through an early warning system developed by UNEP. So we are able to connect all these people, bring it together.
Thank you very much for that response. I think we all see the value of what each player is doing, and we all recognize that we all need all the players working in addressing these challenges, providing solutions, and us receiving and implementing those challenges. We have seen this from an international perspective, from a national perspective, and also from a private sector perspective. So I think I want to leave it at that so that we can move on to the next session. All our presenters are here. Please feel free to engage with them at tea break if you have any questions. Unfortunately, I do not have time to take any question. Because of that, I will roll over to the next session. Thank you.